great method I'm going to show you today, and what we're going to be using is this Roman aquatic gravel. Now if you're going to do this, you need to get the Roman aquatic gravel because it works the best, and it is rounded off and it's all these beautiful, brilliant colours. Now when it comes in the bag, you might not realise it, but it's actually covered in lots and lots of dust. Look, there's quite a bit now on my hand. So the first thing you need to do is work out how much you want and then give it a good wash before you use it and let it dry. So how I'm going to work out how much I need is by popping it in my moulds first, like that. Yeah, and I think that should be enough. And then all I'm going to do is put it in a colander or a sieve like this, and then run this under some running water while I mix it around to get rid of all that dust. While that's drying, I'm now going to quickly clean out my moulds because that will have picked up some of the dust on the Roman gravel and stuck to these moulds, and I don't want that in there. So I'm using just a normal baby wipe for that, and then it can all dry together. If you want to speed up the drying, burst it with a hairdryer or stick it in your curing box in something so it's not actually going everywhere in your curing box. And they're lovely and clean now. So they're starting to dry now, but I want to make sure they're fully dry before I put them in resin, because if not, you know how resin is with water. It will just go cloudy and it'll have a nasty reaction. So I'm just going to spread them out on my mat like that, and there's a lot more water in them than I thought there was still. And now I'm going to push down on them using my towel. See, look how much water I got out of them, and they look dry. This will also help get rid of any remaining dust that is in there. And now I'm going to spread them out fairly thinly and then go over them with my hairdryer until I'm totally satisfied they're fully dry. Well, I'm 100% positive they are dry now. They've just come out of my curing box and they're still actually really quite warm, so I need to let them cool down anyway. Now, while they're cooling down, I can mix up my resin. I'm going to be using the J-Diction Crystal Clear Epoxy Resin. It's a brilliant resin. The other ideal thing about it is it's not a thick resin. You get a 40-minute working time, and this resin is mixed up as a 1-to-1 resin. It is so easy to mix, and to mix without getting too many bubbles in it while you're mixing it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mix that up. This is cooling down. They look much cleaner. Because you're using gravel in this, you're not going to need as much resin as you would normally need to fill these molds, because the gravel is going to take up that excess space. So I'm going to only mix up a quarter of the resin I would normally use for these molds. And if you want to know how much resin to use in a mold, then just fill it with water. It's much easier if you fill it with water over the actual bowl that you're going to measure it in, because that way you're less likely to spill it and then not get an accurate measurement. So there we go. So I know that one takes 100 ml of resin, and now I can fill this one with water, and together that is 6 fluid ounces, which is just under 200 millilitres of water. Make sure your moulds are dry again before you pour your resin in them, and dab your moulds dry if you're using a dry cloth, because that way you're less likely to damage the surface of them. Oh, look at this. Full of tips today. Which is better than what some people say I'm full of, but there we go. And they're nice and dry now. Well, that's all mixed up now, and I've left it for about 4 minutes, and as you can see, most of the bubbles have dissipated. Now, before I go ahead and put the gravel in this, I am going to put a little layer of resin at the bottom of all the bits, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the feet in a second. Okay, so that should be enough, and I'm going to do the same here, because in the corner of this person mold, there is a really quite a sharp corner, and as a result, you can sometimes get a bubble trapped in it. So all I'm going to do is pop down it with this to make sure there's no trap bubble. And if there's any stuck to the sides, I can remove them. And now it's just a case of popping my gravel in my resin and letting that really soak up. Well, it's not going to soak up because it's not porous. Well, it is, some of it is porous actually, but really soak in there, because that way each individual piece is going to get covered with resin. And that's what we're looking for. And then once it's all covered in resin, what I'm going to do now is pour off the excess, because I don't want that excess in there, and I'm just going to pour that off. But we'll maybe use that at the end. Okay, I'm happy with the amount of excess I've got poured off, and that I'm going to pop in my bubble removing machine, because if I need it, then it's going to be clear of bubbles. But if I don't need it, I'll just use it in a different project. And now it's going to be a case of popping my gravel in here and making sure I got it in everywhere. And what I'm doing is pushing it in, but not too hard. But making sure it's all sitting nicely in all the parts of the mold, including the legs. Now, if you've got gloves on, which you should have, you can always go into it with a finger and finger it to make sure that you've got every bit covered. Right, okay, so I'm happy with that now, but there's too much resin on the top of that for me at this moment in time, so I'm just going to take a bit more out. Make sure I've got enough under there and in each leg, and then make sure as well that it's flat. We don't want any bits sticking up. So there's that one, and I'm going to leave that for a few minutes just to settle itself out while I do the same for this one. And gravel's quite heavy as well in comparison to your resin, so if you've got any bits like this bit where it needs to sink down, then it'll automatically find its way there anyway. Let's get rid of some of this excess again that we don't need. But it is still important to put your resin in the bottom of the mold because you want to make sure everything's completely covered. And again, we'll make sure that one's flat. Now you are going to get a few bubbles come up, so my advice would be to leave it for about 3 or 4 minutes to let those bubbles come up top. Give it a bit of a tappy wappy like this. And that'll release any as well, and then go over it with a long neck lighter. Never a torch. We certainly don't want to be going over this with a torch. So that one's okay now as it is, but this one we need to deal with the feet. First of all, we'll burst the bubbles. Not too many, which is great. And now I'm going to take a pipette and remove some of this resin from the feet area. So now I've got some resin removed out of the feet. What I'm going to do is add a bit of pigment paste into the toes and just along the feet a little bit. I've mixed this in with resin. It's not neat pigment paste. I'm doing yellow at the front, and all I'm doing is stirring that in a little bit and then bringing it across. And then I'm going to be doing the same, but I'm using blue for the back feet. You can use all the same colour if you wish, or do like I'm doing and having a combination, because I'm using 2 of the colours that are actually in the gravel itself. So there we go, that's that done. And now I'm going to leave this for about 5 minutes, and then I'll go over it with a long neck lighter and then leave it to cure for 24 hours. Well, these are all cured now and they've gone lovely and hard. So now it's time to take them out of the molds. Oh, look at that. That looks awesome. I love it. And that is why it's really important when you're using this type of gravel in your pieces to ensure that you wash it and that you use the Roman gravel. And it's not expensive at all. Look how good that has come out. So let's move that to one side and let's do a little lady frog. I love this frog mold, and it is so popular as well. It is just ridiculously popular. If I ever sell any of them, because I tend to keep them. And there's the frog. Look how beautiful that has come out. And it does make such a difference just pouring that little layer of resin in there first. I like the different coloured feet. But if you wanted to, you could do all the feet the same colour or each one a different colour. But it just adds to it rather than having them clear. Now, if I was to display this, I make these, and I've got a video coming out on my members group very, very soon about how to make these and other tips on displaying items at a craft fair, which will really, really up your game and make your things look more professional because they're so easy to make and so easy to do. So he will sit, or she will sit on there like that, and I think you'll agree with me, that does finish it off really well. Now, if people want to buy these, I actually sell these as well with it if they want, but they can just buy that. It's up to them, and I don't charge much for these because they cost so very little to make. A big thank you to Sharon Dugdale for inspiring me to do this. She's one of my members. Thank you, Sharon. If you want to become a member, the link for that is in the description below. You're under no obligation by clicking that link, and there's lots of members only videos in there and support for people who are selling things, and the Facebook membership group is really supportive as well and give you lots of great ideas. Boom the like button, hit the subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.